We always try to explain to people that typically an investor has 10 times the amount of investment value that they have in a financial asset class. You are met with someone that's dressed smartly, they are giving you insights, they're acting as an expert.
Inspections was done on paper. If you had a maintenance issue, it was the tenant that phoned the agency had to phone the landlord then had to say yes. Now there's just a little link and the tenant clicks on it and everything happens automatically thereafter, which I think saves time and money for everybody.
That is where we feel data and AI can really come in play and give insights into what's going on in the industry. You as a property agency can go and communicate on yield, on capital growth, because all the information is at your fingertips. And now the investor is getting some value. They're paying 8 or 10% commission, their money is landing regularly, and they're getting insights. They feel like they are taken care of.
Jean, thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of RealTalkSA. It was a very difficult task to pin you down, but you are here finally. So thank you very much for being here. And I think before we dive into the questions, I just wanted you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background and where you're from and what company you're representing today.
Cool. Thank you, Mia, for having me. So I'm Jean Joubert. I'm the product manager for one of the WeConnectU products called RAMS, Rental Asset Management Solution. I'm born and bred Cape Town, grew up in the northern suburbs, went to school in Stellenbosch boarding school, and then my parents have always been in real estate. I personally always went into the sales side of business. So when the opportunity came to work in the real estate space in a pioneering company like WeConnectU, for me that was an amazing opportunity personally, and just to be part of what WeConnectU and what the industry currently is in I would say a very big growth phase and like a revolutionary phase, if you will. And I'm really excited to be part of that. So I took this opportunity and here I'm sitting.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. And what do you say is something that fuels your passion for getting up every day and doing what it is that you do within your company and organization?
So my passion has always been working with people, helping people solve problems for people. And I think at the core, that is what we at WeConnectU try to achieve, is to not build software or tech, but to try and solve people's problems and really help the businesses grow. Because ultimately, solving problems at a profit is what business is, right? So that's ultimately what we achieve or strive to do. And so far, so good. I think the industry's feedback is always good and we're always open to listen. And I think it's important to listen. But the most important thing for us is to make sure that the people feel that they are moving forward in the industry and the industry is evolving.
And I can really talk to that because we've been WeConnectU clients for, I think, about 8 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And we also one of few that I think use all three your platforms. WeConnectU for the community management, rental asset management, and then obviously also Red Rabbit for the inspections. And I have to say, it's really, really put us on another level in terms of our competitors and also what we can offer the public and our clients. So we've really enjoyed the journey. And I think one thing that I can highlight from WeConnectU and being a client of yours is that there's always something new and there's always evolution and it's always evolving into something better, which is amazing. So thank you for that as well.
That's only a pleasure.
So today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. I think a lot of people are talking about this at the moment. And we're going to be discussing the biggest value gaps that currently exists in how rental assets are being managed. So the first question that we are going to be discussing is really talking about the typical journey of a property investor and where do you think the biggest value gap exists in how real estate agencies currently actually manage those rental assets?
Yeah, so we always try to explain to people that typically an investor has 10 times the amount of investment value that they have in a financial asset class. However, if you go to a financial asset class, you are met with someone that's dressed smartly, they are giving you insights, they're acting as an expert, right? They are protecting your asset, which with the financial asset class, they are optimizing your returns, they are reducing your risk, and they advise you often on how your portfolio should be managed. Quarterly they'll meet with you and try and adjust according to the markets, or if your needs have shifted. But that same person, that investor, walks into a property company, and they get downgraded to a landlord overnight. So all of a sudden they're treated as a landlord. They get told there will be rent distribution, and they'll get a statement. They often get phoned for more money for maintenance. The investor has to phone the agency if the tenant hasn't paid, say, where's my money? So if we take those two experiences, we can very clearly see that the same investor, his needs are not met. And as an industry, I think it's important that we see this value gap, and we address it. And I think we've got a massive opportunity to create a new language, if you will, in the property game, and speak about asset management, because we are managing a property, but it's an asset class, and we have to treat it as such. And if we do that, then I honestly feel that, typically, we checked actually the stats. We did a research in the last 2 years, every year. The biggest reason, except for a mandate being sold or a property being sold, that mandates are being lost is the investor opts to manage themselves, because they don't get value for the 8 or 10% commission that they're paying. So they're not getting any perceived value, because the communication of value from the property industry is not where it should be. And if we take what we are sitting on, the data we're sitting on, the expertise that we have, and we package that in such a way that we can fundamentally communicate to the investor like he wants to be communicated towards, then we can really reduce his risk, optimize his return, and be the advice and the experts that we need to be in the industry. So that's ultimately WeConnectU's goal from a rental perspective, is to help the industry to breach that value gap.
We are now going to dive into your actual platform, WeConnectU, Red Rabbits. I just name all of them, and rental asset management. And I wanted to just say that these platforms that you guys have created, these systems have really, really changed the game in our industry. But can you maybe unpack a little bit more about how these systems have helped to bridge that gap and that value gap, and created a more transparent, data-driven experience for these investors?
So the first thing is, we often try and help people correct. We don't build systems, we build solutions, because like I said, we try and solve problems. But we take an approach of these 4 main things that our clients struggle with in the industry. And that is to be compliant, to manage, so be manageable, to scale, and then ultimately profitability, right? So whenever we build a solution or a feature within a solution, we always look at it through the lens. Are we going to address one of those 4 things, or even better, if we can address multiple of those? So yes, everything we do in our solution is ultimately built to make people more profitable, but that doesn't help they're profitable and they're non-compliant. So compliance is always top of mind. So whatever we do with the clients and us, obviously have to be as compliant as possible to make sure that when the PPRA walks into the door today, or whoever walks into the door that's a regulatory authority, you can with utmost confidence say, here's my solution, everything is there, you can check it out. You can only manage what you can measure. And ultimately, to manage at scale, you have to have dashboards, that intuitive dashboards, to be able to give you the insights to manage optimally. But these dashboards are not any value if the data input is not valuable, right? So data is very important, that the data in is super clean, as efficient as possible. And that is where we believe, and I think we'll talk about it slightly later, AI plays a very, very big role in the future, especially where data can be as clean as possible, because it reduces the human element of capturing and making mistakes. So ultimately, WeConnectU, all 3 of our products are built to really to create that. If we look at, for example, what we do with Red Rabbit and Rams, so everything you capture on Rams in terms of property details, leases, etc., automatically filters through to Red Rabbit. So you don't have to duplicate that data. So we're creating that efficiency. But then on the on the Red Rabbit side, or rather, there is the inspections that are done are automatically pulled through into the Ram side. So that's making you more compliant automatically. So now you have already got one small integration feature that is creating compliance, because your inspection reports are automatically pulled through. They're signed, and it's making you manageable because you don't have to go and duplicate that data. And that creates capacity, and that can make you scale better, often obviously leads to profitability. So that's how we look at our solutions and ultimately our view on it.
I think, I can really talk to that because obviously we use all of them. And I don't think our inspections, ever since we've started using Red Rabbit, has ever been so detailed. I had to do one myself the other day, and it took me over an hour because it is so attention detail orientated. You can't actually go wrong if you do it properly. But what was so great for me about it is that the landlord, excuse me, the investor,
There you go.
he loved that it was so detail orientated and that there was nothing that was left out, because in this instance the investor is sitting in Hong Kong from South Africa, bought their first investment property, but they've got us looking after it. But then they've got the integration of the system and the automations, and everything is at their, they can, or within their reach, shall I say. And I think that's what we really enjoy as estate agents and property practitioners, which is the word we should all be using. But also then you have the benefit of the benefits that these systems have got for your clients as well.
Yeah, and just as in that example that you use, your investor sitting in Hong Kong. Now, the Red Rabbit inspection is forcing you to look after this property, right? So if there's any issues of the property, the maintenance that is going to fall out of that, our amazing team at Red Rabbit has recently released the app, building it from scratch on modern technology, and also a brand new feature called ticketing on the go. So while you're doing an inspection, you can actually create a maintenance ticket, and that really speaks to the type of stuff we try to deliver, and that really looks after the property or the asset, and that asset now can be optimally managed because there's no major things wrong with it. You can make sure that the property keeps tip top condition with the tools at your disposal.
And I think that really has filled a gap. I've been in the industry for 9 years alongside my husband Jonathan, and I think back at the very beginning of time, of my time in the company, inspections was done on paper. If you had a maintenance issue, it was the tenant that phoned the agency had to phone the landlord then had to say yes, you can send someone. Now there's just a little link and the tenant clicks on it and everything happens automatically thereafter, which I think saves time and money for everybody, but also it's a lot more of a professional service that is offered. So I love that about the system. I think that's really great.
Yeah, and that also just speaks to the communication of value. So the tenant and the investor both, when the ticket is now going through stages, whether it is quote requested, etc., they are in the loop. They get communication updates without you having to physically do it. The solution does it for you. And that is communicating the value. So even though the tap is still leaking, at least the tenant knows something is being done about it and they are in the loop, as well as the investor. And that is just really speaking to that value communication. That's just one of them.
Thank you so much for that, Jean. We're now going to talk about something a little bit different, and that is the fact that many agencies are still struggling to clearly communicate the value of this professional rental asset management. How can better tech tools combined with AI, which is also a big word, everyone's talking about at the moment, help agencies elevate their offering and justify their management fees?
Yeah, so I am aspiring property investor myself. One little property that my wife and I invested in, and if I look at what I expect as an investor, I expect professional reporting, insights into what's going on in the industry. I expect accurate and clean data, and obviously on-time payment into my bank account ultimately. But if we look at how that happens, so all that is what is typically done on a daily or monthly basis. But why it's done, there's a difference. Why it's done is so that I can have a optimized return on my investment or reduce risk in my property. Something like tenant vetting. To do proper tenant vetting is not just a requirement. It is really important for the investor, so that he knows there's peace of mind that the tenant that's occupying his property or his asset is really someone that is going to look after his property and is going to pay on time. So from an investment point of view, I would say, these tools are extremely important. And looking at from the estate agency or property practitioner's point of view, obviously we are under immense pressure in the industry to perform. As we always say that the bloody rental agent gets screamed at often for lack of service, because you've got two clients, not just the investor, the tenant is a client of yours as well. Often they have issues. So I think AI and tech plays in a really good or important role to try and bridge that gap of frustration, the experience that the investor expects or wants. And that is where we feel data and AI can really come in play and give insights into what's going on in the industry. You, as a property agency, can go and communicate on yield, on capital growth, because all the information is at your fingertips. And now the investor is getting some value. They're paying 8 or 10% commission. Their money is landing regularly and they're getting insights. They feel like they are taken care of. The tenant, something small as giving them the ability to pay with multiple payment options. If you do that, the tenant now feels, hey man, I can actually pay, even though I'm, for example, a sales agent and my commission is only due in 2 weeks' time, but I have to pay my rent now. Now my credit score is not going to be affected. I can pay with my credit card. I can pay with other means. Flexibility. So now you're looking after the tenant, you're looking after the landlord or the investor, and the agency has streamlined tools or stuff at their ability to actually service these people without having to work exceptionally hard.
So I think that brings us to an end. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. I definitely think that there's a lot more to talk about, so we will for sure have you guys back for another session or 2 or maybe 3. And I wanted to just ask if anybody wanted to reach out to you guys and if they had any questions or if they needed any information, what would be the best place for them to do so?
Yeah, so our website has really got everything you need to get. So it's WeConnectU with a U on the end.co.za. And on the website is all 3 platforms, all 3 solutions information from A to Z, as well as all contact information. And then on our LinkedIn and Facebook page, there is regular feedback and posts on events we do, on anything that is going on relating to the industry. And then for our existing clients, the most important is to check the system notifications. Often clients just click them away, but the most valuable information is in those system notifications. So those are the various places where you can reach us.
No, that's fantastic. And what we also will do is we will drop that information into the comment box below on the different platforms when we release the episode so people can get hold of you easily. Thank you so much, Jean. We really, really appreciate your time and can't wait to have you back for another episode.
Cool. And thanks to you guys pioneering the podcasting space of real estate in South Africa. So yeah, appreciate it and thank you for having us.
Thank you.